Well, hello there everybody, hope you're all doing fantastic, and I wanted to talk today about 5 guitars that I think beginners should avoid. Now, keep in mind that obviously if this is the only guitar that you have to start with, by all means, a guitar is a whole lot better than none. I just have a few reasons why I think it might be beneficial to, a complete beginner to avoid these, and I'll explain them, and if you disagree with them or you have your own kind of input on them, by all means, leave those down in the comments section, and I'm just going to jump on into this one, and you guys let me know what you think. So number 1, now keep in mind, I'm not saying avoid the style of guitar, nothing is wrong with the guitar, it's just going to be certain attributes that each one of these has. And this guitar, although I love it, has what's called a Floyd Rose on it. You can see it right there. And I highly recommend a beginner not starting with a guitar that has a Floyd Rose on it, because it is going to be a huge headache for you. Changing strings is very annoying. You'll hear guitarists make jokes about it all the time. And I found in a couple of instances where students who came to me who had started on a guitar with a whammy like this, what ended up happening was they basically learned to bend with their whammy bar and not with their fingers. And I do think that that is, a pretty bad habit, because, what happens whenever you're handed a Les Paul and you don't have a whammy bar, and all of a sudden your bends are all like really bad, and it's like, oh, I need a whammy bar for this. But I guess Les Pauls do have whammy bars too. Let's not talk about that. But yes, I do think that starting on a guitar, even though they look cool, you can get them just like this, same body design, everything, in what's called a hardtail, so that will have no tremolo on it, or even a normal tremolo is better than a Floyd Rose. Floyd Rose just is amazing, but also can give you a lot of headaches. So if possible, avoid a guitar that has a Floyd Rose. And the newest member of the family, but like I said, I'm not saying don't start on a Les Paul. If you get to start on a Les Paul, you're a very lucky beginner, because most of us start on budget, kind of like knockoff brand guitars. No, what I'm actually going to talk about here are P90 pickups. Now, P90s are fairly new to me. Of course, I've known about them for a long time, but all the rumors I had heard about them are very true. They are very noisy pickups. And for a beginner, understanding how to control noise is actually a very difficult thing. Your fingers are moving on the strings, your right hand's hitting the strings, you get all this noise, especially when you add distortion. And I think that trying to maybe start with something that has humbuckers, even single coils, which are a little bit noisier, they're nothing like this. These are pretty noisy pickups, and I think it could be a little bit discouraging if you have these, like this awful amp, that 60-cycle hum just kind of like blaring at you the whole time. When you're trying to, play your guitar. So maybe avoid starting on a guitar with P90s, but again, if it's all you have, by all means, rock what you got. But this is, they're noisy, so be warned. Now the next one I want to throw out here, I don't actually have one of these, unfortunately, in my possession, but you'll see them a lot in stores, and like I said, I know they look very appealing, and if this is, again, the only option, go ahead and run with it. But you see a lot of those kit guitars, those budget, kind of like $200, you get the amp, the strap, the gig bag, the guitar, all that stuff, which seems like a great deal, and it is, in all honesty, it's a great deal. But those guitars have possibly been sitting in that box for years. They are not set up, they don't sound the best, they play very poorly. So if it's at all possible, have someone, like a friend of yours who knows a little bit about guitars, who could take you, and if you can actually buy a used guitar, you can get a much better guitar for your money. And you could get like a Fender G-Deck or a used Mustang, and they'll sound incredible. I mean, they sound good. And I just think you can get so much more bang for your buck if that's an option. If you do have to go the kit guitar route, I recommend really investing the money in getting that guitar set up. So take it to the tech at the local shop or Guitar Center or something like that, wherever they have a tech that works on this stuff, and just have them set the guitar up for you. It's worth the 50, 60 bucks, however much it's going to be. I'm telling you, it makes such a difference because, man, I've seen so many, when I used to teach, I saw so many people come in with those guitars. The action was so high off the fingerboard. Even if their guitar's in tune, they have to push the string down so far, it pushes it out of tune. So, you know, avoid those if you can. If you can't, have the guitar set up. This is a guitar I should avoid. But also, I think starting on an extended range guitar for a beginner might not be the most practical and best thing to do. I'm not saying any of this stuff is impossible, but you know, learning how to play 6 strings will be a little bit easier than trying to learn how to play 8 or 7 or something like that. And I'm sure there's someone who all they had was a 7-string guitar, and that's what they learned on, and I'm sure they're amazing. But for the majority of people, I would say avoid extended range at the beginning of you learning how to play guitar, because learning how to control 6 is hard enough. The necks are much wider on these extended range guitars. They're much longer necks. Obviously, I don't play this one very much. You can probably see the dust and dirt on it. But yeah, it's kind of, and you know, it's a challenge even if you've, you know, grown up playing 6 strings to go to something like this. It's basically like a whole nother instrument is the way I kind of treat it. And, you know, if it's at all possible, avoid those extended range guitars when you're first starting out. Now, before I show the next guitar, I want everybody to calm down for a minute, because I know this will upset some people, but just hear me out first before you comment. An acoustic guitar. So, here's where I think starting on acoustic is totally fine. Let me start by saying that. And I think that if acoustic guitar is what inspired you to play, and again, like I've stated it multiple times now, if acoustic is the only option you have, and all these different things, like, by all means, starting on acoustic is not a bad thing. It plays, you know, everything on the left hand is exactly the same as an electric guitar. Where I would avoid getting an electric guitar for a beginner, or if you're the beginner purchasing it yourself, is really look at what made you want to play guitar. You know, I've had students come in who wanted to learn because of Dave Matthews, you know, something like that. And they're like, oh, I really heard this Dave Matthews song. My guitar is not in tune at all. But, you know, that made them want to play. I'm like, oh, you should start on acoustic. Because, you know, starting with electric and distortion, that's not what made you want to play guitar. But if the person come in and he's like, dude, I love Thin Lizzy. And then, you know, you hand, oh, here, start on this. You hand him an acoustic. He's like, is this what they use? And you're like, oh, no, they use electric guitars. Why would I start on this? You know? So that's the only time I say to avoid an acoustic. And in all honesty, electric guitar is easier to learn. And I've just seen a lot of people get discouraged from playing acoustic, you know, because it is, you know, at the end of the day, it's a more difficult instrument to play than an electric guitar. So just keep that in mind. You know, if you're a beginner looking to buy a guitar, understand that just really try to, like, follow that inspiration that made you want to play guitar. That, I think, is the key to it all. And I just want to add this here at the end, that I'm never trying to discourage anybody at all from just playing whatever you have. At the end of the day, if you have a guitar, like I said, you know, a guitar is a whole lot better than no guitar. Play whatever you have. These are just some guidelines, my opinions, you know, through years of teaching beginners and stuff like that. So take them as you will. I think they could be helpful, but at the end of the day, like I said, if you have an 8-string Floyd Rose P90 guitar, and that's just what you have, yo, rock it. So, until next time, guys. Later. Woo!